Howdy, Aggies. Big game Saturday at Cowboy Stadium when your Aggies and Razorbacks clash for the 79th time. Last year, the Hogs avoided the decade sweep by beating the Aggies 20-10 with a veteran, hard-working team. Nothing changes this year. Nothing. They still have Bumper Poole on defense, KJ Jefferson at QB, and they look better than ever. But this is a team game, and nothing will be won by a single person. So, look, currently the record stands at 33, 42, and 3 in favor of the Hogs. I don't like that as much as you. If the Ags are ever going to get close to that gap and close it, the Ags need to start a new streak, similar to the previous one that cut the lead by 50%, winning that 9 in a row. So 9 more in a row would be just the trick, but you already know they won't go down without a substantial fight. That's how they are. Respect them for it, hate them for it, whatever you want, but that's the deal. So what are the Farmers up against this year? Before we jump in, like and subscribe to the pod. One of the perks that comes along with your sub is your number gets deleted off the registry that they use to call about your car warranty. Now, that's not true, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't just subscribe still, okay? So go ahead and do it, and that way you get back here on Sunday with me. Now, if you're new, drop your location into the comments. I bet we got some Ags listening in Arkansas this week. Love to hear from y'all. I wonder just what it's like living as a farmer in the Hogs world. I've been over there a time or two. Great piece of country. So Hogs, if you're listening, love Arkansas. Want to beat the hell out of y'all on Saturday, but that's the way it's got to be. So, all right, so let's jump in. Bumper Poole leads the linebacker-centric defense with 29 tackles. Now, Drew Sanders, a transfer from Alabama, five-star transfer, as a matter of fact, is right on his heels with 28. Both are top 30 tacklers, averaging over 9 tackles per game so far this season. So very talented in that position group. Now, the offense is led by KJ Jefferson with a 70% completion percentage. Now, that's earned him 770 yards on the season with 6 TDs. To complement his arm, the 6'3", 240-pound tank has added 169 more yards with his legs, taking in another 3 TDs. So with over 900 yards of total offense in 3 games, he finds himself as a top 20 player. So don't underestimate this guy. Maybe you are thinking, well, if we just shut him down, then we should be able to get the dub. But to do that, you're going to have to get past their immense physical opposing offensive line. And it's good luck. That line's allowing only 1 sack per game and is pretty stingy at 5 tackles for loss per. From there, he distributes to a host of dangerous players, none more than Raheem Sanders, who is the second best productive player in the country with 185 all-purpose yards per game. This guy, he can make you pay on the ground and through the air, as he's got 144 and 117 yards respectively in each. Deep balls. You remember the deep ball from last year, right? Treylon Burks, he left last year at the end of the draft, but Matt Landers has filled in nicely to supplant the long ball that ultimately won them the game that last year. And he's serving them up well again this year. So we have a lot to deal with, very similar to last year. Now he is only one of 3 players on the team with a catch of 40-plus yards. So their most talented defender, Catalan, he's out, but that hasn't kept them from INTs with Dwight McGlothern. He's racked up, 51 return yards on 2 INTs so far. They have a lot to offer on both sides of the ball, even with the injuries, and kind of have a bit of a low-key team, but very, very good. Total offense. Let's talk total offense for a little bit here. So they're 19th in the nation, putting up 500 yards per game at 6.7 yards per clip. Now that's 750 on the ground and 243 per game, and that's good enough for a 5-yard average per tote. They're 54th best in pass O. They got 770 yards, like I said, through the air, 256 per game for a respectable 9.5 yards per lob. Now they run the ball 66% of the time on first down, and that increases to 72% on second. This is going to come in handy as we talk more a little bit later, as it may reveal part of the game plan strategy that would work for your Aggies. But that gives way to throwing on third down 54% of the time. And on the whole shot, Arkansas runs 2 times for every single pass. So they are a run-centric offense, but it's even not really fair to call them that if you understand what it is they do. So this needs to be a major consideration for the Aggie scheme, as the run enables their offense to get one-on-one matchups. They increase their chances doing that of competing for the deep balls that they're going to throw, that they want to throw, and it's really elevated their offense to a top 20 unit. So they have this weird balance that they've got going on, where they run 66% of the time, but their passing is almost as important, if not even more important, even though they do it basically half as much. So now Jefferson, like I said, is completing 70% of his passes. He's helping the team to convert on third downs, and he's doing it nearly 50% of the time. Pretty good number. Now they're going to try to beat us very, very similarly to last year. They pound, and then they throw deep. Pound it, right up the center, and then they want to throw it deep on you. As it stands, they're 26th in the nation for plays of 30 or more yards, and have they've got exactly 18 plays of 20 plus yards on the season. That's a big number. So they love to throw it down the field. We are going to have to be ready. But like I said, for you to be ready for that, you've got to stop them on first and second down. We're going to talk about all that in the game plan and the scheme. For me, it really shapes up pretty nicely. But we need to understand the defense as well. They're 105th in the nation in total defense by allowing 420 yards per game, with an opponent average of 5.8 yards per clip. They're allowing those yards at a 5-to-1 ratio pass to run, with 205 coming on the ground and over 1,000 yards having blistered them through the air. So pretty lopsided situation going on there as well, but in a different way. So the numbers bear out that it's lopsided, and even though on the offensive side, it doesn't quite bear out the same way when it's the quantity of carries and plays are more, but the yards end up being the same. More on that in just a second. So look, while being 6th in the nation in run defense with only 68 yards per game being allowed, that's just over 2 yards per total. They are last in the country at 131st in passing defense. Now they're allowing 352 yards per game for 8.5 yards per catch. That's not elite in the sense of what what offenses are doing against them. You want to be somewhere over 10 to be elite, but 8.5 is much more than functional. That is much more than functional. So they are allowing their opponents to move the ball. Now, oddly enough, the opposition's only completing 59% of their passes, and when accounting for this, they would improve to 67th in the nation. So when you factor for that stat versus the all-purpose yards or the total yards gained, it kind of tells maybe a little bit better story. Their defense may be better than that 131st. So let's not just sneak through this preview thinking, oh, well, this is the worst defense in the country. Not necessarily. Okay, so for reference, your Aggies are allowing 147 through the air, and opponents are completing 50% of their passes. And then we're somewhere, I believe, right now in the top 30. I'll check that before we get done with the entire preview. So look, here's the conundrum. Does the poor Arkansas pass defense matched up against our struggling A&M pass offense, does this benefit the Aggies, or does it benefit the Razorbacks, right? It's like the football version of like the chicken or the egg to be for me. You're matched up against a defense that's not good passing wise. So is that going to bear out so that our offense takes over or their defense takes over? Which one is going to be the one that kind of tells the story? Which trumps the other? Does the poor pass O trump a poor pass D? I don't know. Story of our life. On a similar note, the Arkansas rush is 6th in the nation. A&M rush D is 83rd. So which one of these will win out as well? That's our rush offense, excuse me, not our rush D. Our rush offense is 83rd. That's not great, especially going up against the 6th ranked rush D. Again, which one will win out? Does one help the other? So let's dig deeper. I don't like just leaving these things when it's kind of like, well, up in the air. So we got to do a little deeper dive here. So remember what I told you about how strong the passing game is to overall outcome? We've visited about this in previous podcasts, right? So Arkansas really gives a great example of this. And so whereas they run 2 for every pass, they actually have more yards through the air, right? So in 3 downs, they're going to pass it on 1st and 2nd, and then they're going to, backwards. They're going to run on 1st and 2nd, and then they're going to pass on 3rd. So it takes them essentially 2 runs to equal the same amount of yards as 1 pass. Now, to hammer the dilemma home, will the game tend to A&M's defensive production or to Arkansas's offensive production? You might think, well, Arkansas has played cupcakes, in 2 of the 3 games so far. That that means that their average is inflated and would likely tend towards A&M and shading our side. But actually, that would be wrong. I'm sure Arkansas fans would be the first to tell you, because they played Cincy week 1, then they played South Carolina week 2. Cincy has the 11th ranked pass D. South Carolina has the 54th, and then I think it's Southwestern Missouri State was their opponent last week, some FCS Midland Valley or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Now your Aggies are the 9th best pass D and have played similar to a similar slate to that of Cincinnati. So maybe you can kind of compare a little bit to Cincinnati. So we'll use that as a bit of a baseline to kind of go from here and establish some things as we talk about the possible strategy we might employ. Arkansas averaged 250 yards per game passing so far and has performed just under that against Cincy. So it was something where along the lines of 225 yards in that game, which was about a 10% reduction of their average. Of course, that was also the first game. However, then Arky played South Carolina. Now, they ran up an astronomical number on this one. They ran it 65 times. I think there was maybe 22 throws in this game. Why? Why'd they do this? Because South Carolina is going to get punished all year on the ground. That's kind of what's going to happen. Smart move probably by them. Took advantage of it. Crammed it down their throat. Couldn't deal with it. That is what it is. Okay. To quote Coach 30, they're probably pissing down their leg, right? This guy, if you haven't caught him, catch him, kind of funny. But they really gave it to him on all they wanted and more on that running. So they did not throw it nearly as much as they might had. You probably would have seen at least 10 to 15 more attempts out of them. So that did not kind of continue what their normal average would have been. Since they were running it 75% of the time, their pass offense was deflated substantially. So, likewise, though, on the opposite side of the spectrum, playing Southwest Missouri State, it did exactly the opposite. It increased that average. Maybe it kind of averaged out between the two. It may be a little bit hard to say, but you get the idea of what's going on. It's important to know that even though they played South Carolina, what would be considered a quality opponent, the manner in which they played that game was not indicative of an even type of game, so that you would be able to extrapolate what they would normally have done pass-wise. Because what we're going to kind of work off a little bit is, well, based off of kind of what Cincinnati has done against them, can we expect a similar result? Will we reduce their total by that amount? Because if we can, it would tell us about what avenue we should probably go through for our game plan. So So here's the thing. Arkansas has been eating on first and second down. They're averaging like 11 yards per attempt. Again, they're not throwing that much on those, but when they do, it's 11 yards, which is an elite number. So, we can hold them maybe to about 8 yards per attempt if we can, kind of consider what their average probably would have been had they played South Carolina in a normal way, and relating Cincinnati's defense and our pass defense together, ours being slightly better, we could probably reasonably extrapolate about a 20% reduction from their average. Okay, so if they're passing at about 11 yards per clip, a 20% reduction is just somewhere north of about 8. So 8, interesting. What does that number mean? 8 would limit them to being just over average probably. 7 is functional. It's competent. It's good. 10 is elite. That's first down per throw kind of situation. We would be knocking them down from there if things hold, right? These are predictions though. So it's a twofold problem though. It really is. And it's important to understand, because it's not about just say we're going to limit their throwing, right? Because throwing is so important. If we just limit their throwing, then that means we win the game, right? We cut their throwing yards in half and we win. And then you end up becoming South Carolina, where they just run it, and you don't stop them because you're not committing the resources. So it's a twofold problem, okay? So to limit them in this way, remembering how much they run on first and second down, if we want to keep them to just 8 yards per pass, we also have to do that while playing the run 66% of the time on those downs, okay? Remember, they run on average 66% of the time on first and second down. It even balloons up again on second down. So how do you play the run 66% of the time, but at the same time limit their pass production? Well, it's a fairly simple idea, I think, when you put their game plan and their scheme together. Not saying it's simple to execute, however. So again, remember, run, and then throw deep. Deep throws take time. This is their identity at this point. Is it going to change? Probably not. When's the last time your identity changed? I've been an Aggie for 20 years now. I'm not changing. So my Aggie identity is going to be sticking with me for a lot longer than this. It's not changing, right? They're probably not going to be changing. So match that with run blitz, because that's what they like to do. You got to couple this with a safety bracket on the best wide receiver. The key is playing the run with the ability to get pressure to force bad throws deep. It would be ideal to do this in obvious situations. I feel like that's what we've been a victim of so far, in large part. To limit some of our production is obvious situations, right? So they're 3rd and 7. We might run 3 down linemen. I don't like it except in obvious situations, but it would make some sense there. 3rd and 10. But if they like to run so much, you got to get them off schedule, right? The thing of it is, Jefferson's too good with time when he's throwing the ball deep. I mean, if you watch this guy sling it, he is accurate, and it's a pretty looking ball. It really is. When he's given time to throw deep, for one-on-one coverage, he's knocking them down. Like I said, his completion percentage is somewhere in the 70% range, and his deep ball completion's right up there. I think right in the range of about 65%. That is excellent. You'd think maybe, well, why don't y'all just throw more like that? Well, again, part of their identity is you get the better looks because of the way you're playing on first and second down. It's just what there is to it, okay? So there's not a lot of need to change that. You don't just start chunking it down the field because you think you're going to complete every single one at 65%. That's not going to be the case. But they want to keep doing what they've been doing. So whatever, something that's in motion tends to stay in motion, right? And this is the motion that they've been going. This is probably what they're going to do. They like I said, they possess a very good QB, maybe even great. I'm interested to see where this guy ends up at the end of the year. So keep your eyes on this guy. As well as they have a big and physical offensive line. Can't say enough about them. Haven't even paid them justice to this point. They are big. They are physical. Say it again. They are big and physical. Okay? We are going to have to play big and physical too. Going to have to. Now, we're going to need to match up on this D schematically to limit the strength, meaning we're going to have to come in schematically, or we're just going to get manhandled. And watch out for it because I'm not confident in this area at the moment. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but I really want to see something that's game planned towards this. I really hope Durkin's got something worked out. We're going to need to play, in my opinion, 4 down nearly the entire game. We're going to need to play our guys closer to the line, and I need to see probably 7 in the box as the standard, right? Maybe you disagree with that. I'm not sure how else to go about it, but you've seen what's happened when we're going up against 6 and 7 linemen. It's not been great, especially because our linebackers are playing, a solid 6 yards off. And I get that. I'm not saying play them further down so much, but making contact with their offensive linemen closer to the line of scrimmage and the ball carrier, being that you don't end up making contact, it's so much different than if you make contact on the three yards past the line of scrimmage and then you're trying to wrestle the guy down. I mean, they get an automatic 3 if you do that, and then maybe they're falling for 1 or 2 more. Okay, so look, if we can do that, and if we can affect them on 1st and 2nd down, let our DBs work, Chappelle, Jones, Johnson, Damani, we can get them into obvious passing situations, which plays to our strength. This is the whole point of this conversation so far, to be quite honest. Our strength is pass coverage at this point. That's probably our identity on defense. Do we have a good defensive line? Yes, we do. Do we have good linebackers? Yes, we do. Are they playing as well as the backside? No, they are not. So we need to play to our strengths. They can bear a load by playing a little bit more man, playing a little bit more press. They've got some speed. Jalen's strong. That we can use this strength to then transfer resources towards the line of scrimmage, right? We can put 4 down there, keep our 2 linebackers in the normal spot, but play our 7th guy probably like Antonio Johnson, something like that, a little bit closer to the line, kind of like as a 3rd linebacker. Then we can be ready, one, for stopping the run close to the line of scrimmage, which gets them off schedule. That's the way my game plan's coming through so far. I'm not the coach, but let's have fun here, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to talk football, so let's have fun. I want to meet them at the line of scrimmage or behind. I want tackles for loss. It's hard to get tackle for loss when you're trying to make up 5 yards worth of gain. So that also plays a role as trying to get pressure. And if you've got somebody out wide and they've got like 6 or 7 linemen, and we've talked about this in the reaction, we're not getting pressure like we saw in Miami. We still didn't get a lot of pressure there because the line is so wide. And it gives just a little bit extra time to get that pass off. And so we're going to need to come with equal speed. I would love to see a corner blitz. Love to, but we'll see. So the whole game plan that I'm working through here is trying to get us to 3rd and predictable, mainly 3rd and long. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, to be quite honest? But this is a little bit more strategic, right? It's quite a bit more strategic. So this seems like, again, our obvious strength. Our strength is the secondary. So again, my game plan is just simply to get us in that situation. Now they don't have to go with that, and we've been out coached in one game I would love it if we were not in this game. I think we probably were last year in this game because it did not look pretty. But maybe we can, flip the script this year and become the out coachees, the ones that are doing the out coaching. Um, and I'd really like to see that happen with a game plan and a scheme that's geared towards playing for our strengths. Wouldn't you? It seems pretty obvious what our strengths were. We've talked on this here podcast, and we've been doing this for a couple months that we've been on this. So forgive me if I'm a little bit interested in this, right? But and I'm not outing anybody. Look, the decisions people make on coaches are difficult. So I'm here to give plenty of grace in that kind of situation. But here on this channel and those listening in, we've had our opinions about Haynes King, but I think in general we've been talking about we thought it should have been Max. I think we've seen enough in one game that we feel pretty confident that that's the way it should have been from the get-go. And now we're a little frustrated because we're basically starting at game 2 now on game 4. And that's frustrating. Extremely frustrating. I'd like to be going into game 4 with 3 games having already been practiced. Wouldn't you? We all would. Okay. So that's where I'm at with that. Now, again, I'd love to see a game plan geared towards our strengths. Okay. If that happens, then here's my prediction. Okay. None of this sticks, and they are predictions, Arkansas fans. If you're listening, these are predictions. You don't have to show back up in the comments after the game if you win and say, oh, great. Based off of that, this is what I think would happen. The way things are trending, this is what I think can happen, and this is how I think we can exploit it. I am going to say that the Aggies are going to win this by a very small margin, and I'm going with 20-17. I think if we can get to 24 points, we have a 80% chance of winning this game. The 20 points for us, I think, only gives us about a 60% chance. So I'd like to put that in there, at least for you Arkansas fans. Just because I'm claiming 20-7 does not mean that's a guaranteed, and that's my probability if it's that score, because a 20-17 score against this kind of quality team means that this is going into the fourth quarter. This means maybe we're kicking a field goal late. It means maybe we are batting down a pass on a fourth down as they're driving the field. Something like that, right? Trying to get into field goal range. It could mean a lot of different things. And I'm saying respect this team. I think it's going to be close. Love to win 31-17 and have it open up a little bit wider, but is that wishful thinking based off of what we've seen so far? Offense operated much better last week. I think we all felt more comfortable with it, but still, let's make sure we're going to be as realistic as possible. So, I also think we're going to see a second straight week where we don't have as many total yards as the other team, but perhaps still end up winning. And I think that might end up being a little bit of a trend. That would probably mean we're going to need some more help from the special teams. And that's okay with me, by the way. We've new place kickers look good. A chain is rumbling back. I think Anais, I don't think he's got one yet this year, but he's probably poised to get one. Maybe not in this game, but a fumble would, fumble would work wonders. Can't count on that happening again this next week. So we need to talk about the keys of the game, though, because and all the things that could affect this game and could flip it up on its head, we got to talk about those too. If the Aggies are going to win, then I think the keys are just simple. Simple, but not simple to do. There's no guarantee. So get ourselves an obvious passing downs by playing close to the line of scrimmage on defense with numbers. Bring pressure, when it's obvious passing downs. Don't worry about giving up a big pass. I think we're gonna feel like, well, if we give a big pass, that's the end of the world. No, 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 no. Big pass we can deal with. They would probably even hit one or two. Let's not let it go for a touchdown. Okay, let's gather ourselves. Let's live to fight another day. Let's get the tackle down. Let's not trip over our feet and let them have it coasting into the end zone. That's okay because they are a pretty good team, right? And if they are getting some one-on-one matchups and if we are gambling a little bit, it's probably likely that they will get one, maybe two, okay? But don't fold after that, okay? And Coach Fisher preaches a lot. We know the team's there. We know they're motivated, and we've seen what the culture actually is of this team after all the speculation, so I'm not really worried about that. On offense, don't forget that their linebackers are the key to their defense, okay? So that has to do with my keys for our offense. Everything runs through those linebackers. Everything. If we want to have success, we have to get them looking where they shouldn't. We need motion. We need to make good reads. Any RPOs that we're doing, we need to hold the linebackers back as long as possible. They love to get a jump start. They love to read. If we are predictable, that's going to be a big mistake. Very, very big mistake to be predictable against this team. I saw it all last year, and I've seen it also simple things like in their spring practice when the linebackers just get moving one direction incorrectly. If it's not the correct direction on the first move, then they can really get into some trouble. So they get moving up. You come up on them like you're going to block. You move off that, and then now they're trying to play catch up. Bumper pull is good. Fast he is not. Okay? So he plays very, very sound football. He gets himself in position to make plays. He can't recover the way, some DB would be able to. Not many linebackers can, but definitely not him. And he doesn't really move lateral that well either. But this is not supposed to knock on him because he's an excellent player. It's just to point out that you've got to get their linebackers in places where they're not able to make the plays because they are very good at getting themselves where they can make the play. So, if we want to have success, we're going to have to get them looking, like I said, where they shouldn't, and we're going to need those motions, okay? So how could this go awry? The most obvious one is going to be turnovers. We had a turnover last year. I went back and forth about whether or not that was an interception. I forget whose helmet it went off of, and then was it caught, was the ground used, whatever. It's all in the past now, but turnovers could tell the story. This is looking to maybe be a low-scoring game, and one possession makes the difference, as it did with Miami, honestly. Maybe it never felt like it was in jeopardy, but that turnover on special teams really made the difference. It did. So, O-line doesn't protect, and their run blocking gets shoddy again, or we just continue to struggle to get off the field on third down. I think any of those three things, especially in a combination of any two of those, is going to really, really struggle. That's it'd be early in the morning. The bus is going to come around. Going to be asked to get on the struggle bus real early if that's the case. That's really what it's going to look like. We need to improve at all three of those areas. Okay, obviously two of those are offense and one is defense. But as good as our defense has been, we have struggled to get off the field on third down, and it gives the other team life, gives them confidence whenever they're able to get off. They don't worry about the first and second down as much, but then they come to eat whenever they see they can get through our pass block and our and they're eating us alive on the run game. So that's gonna have to get slightly better. I feel confident that it really can, but would love to see some progress there. But if it doesn't, it's gonna go south quick. It's gonna go south very quick. So those are my keys. There's where I'm at with this game. That's it. That's your preview, right? If you made it this far, you might as well go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. besides, you want to be back here for the reaction on Sunday. So that's what I got for you. I hope it gives you a really nice overview. Arkansas, looking forward to playing you all if you're still here. Great team. This will be a great top 10 win for the Aggies. No better win at this time than we have than getting one over on these Hogs. So I'm looking forward to it. And we'll see what happens this Saturday, and we'll be right back here talking about it either way on Sunday. So until then, thanks and gig 'em.